If you caught us live here on the Renegade Nation, monitoring the Disney earnings call earlier this week, you probably picked up on the same thing that we did. It seems that all Disney has left up its sleeve is raising prices on Disney Plus radically since inception, which finally got it to profitability. Nowhere near as much as some of the other price hikes that we've seen from competitors like Netflix or even Paramount Plus or Peacock. Percentage-wise, Disney has really gone above and beyond. And now, with parks and their prices going up per ticket, we got to ask the question once again that we asked many years ago. Exactly how much price elasticity does Disney have left before American consumers have just had enough? Renegade Online. The takeaway I got here when it comes to Disney Plus, when it's come to theme parks, put television aside for a second, but certainly with film, movie theaters and stuff like this, we've talked about this before. Disney's growth seems to largely, what growth there is, largely due to price increases by Disney. I mean, Hugh Johnston, the CFO, even got asked a question there towards the end about, are we seeing the growth, and I believe it was related to DTC, or what do you look at going forward? And he said, where can we expect this growth to come from? Is this going to be from adding actual new customers, or is it going to be from price increases? And Johnston said, well, it's going to be a mix, but probably lean more towards pricing, meaning that they're not actually hauling in new customers. They're just jacking up the prices on the existing customers, to which, of course, you then have to ask yourself, as we have many times in the past, then what, pray tell, is the price elasticity for something like Disney Plus? We're finding out now what the price elasticity is for the parks, because theme park attendance has not meaningfully increased. In fact, it's seemingly decreased here year over year. And they've been raising the prices. So when you look at this, it could be said, and I'm going to pull the report back up here in just a moment, it could be said that most of the effect here is Disney just raising prices. They talk about value for what they're adding. You know, we can keep doing this with Disney Plus and streaming because of the tremendous value that we offer. I'm sorry, boys and girls, but the publicly available data suggests you're full of it, because if that was accurate, if people perceived a lot of value in what Disney is offering, then why do they never to almost never show up on streaming charts, on the top 10, Luminate, Nielsen, even Samba TV out there? Who's on there all the time? Netflix. We know who's watching what. They talk about content spend, how they can reduce content spend. They don't have to make as many localized programs. They don't spend as much as their competitors. I about pooped my pants when he said that. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
I mean, really, we're talking about a $400 million, maybe $500 million Snow White film that they didn't even mention on this earnings call.
No,
and they want to say that they spend less.
I think what they're talking about, I think what he was trying to say, Jonas, if I'm not mistaken, is that there is this cumulative effect, right? So when they say, what is our content spend? And they look at somebody like Netflix, and Netflix spends, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but let's say that Netflix is spending $25 billion to $30 billion a year, or whatever it is, on content. Disney is saying, well, we've reduced that. That's, of course, sports aside, we're spending $20 billion, let's say. And I'm kind of fudging numbers here just for the sake of making the point, right? Disney can say that they're spending less, but the problem is Disney is perhaps cumulatively spending less than their competitors, like a Netflix, but they're also producing far less content for what they're spending. Netflix is spending more, and if Netflix is spending 10 to 15 to 20% more than Disney, they're probably producing 3 times the content. That's the difference.
if I could just point this out right now, Disney Plus has a win because they have Deadpool and Wolverine on the platform, but
Yeah, I want to talk
they have
about
a
that.
top 10 list on their platform right now, which is a complete bunk. It is ridiculous. They're trying to say, first of all, Deadpool and Wolverine #1 on the platform. They're trying to say that all of the things on the top 10 are more popular than Bluey, which is one of the most popular shows in the entire world. And they're trying to say that Agatha All Along and the making of Deadpool and Wolverine are more popular on Disney Plus than the most popular show in the United States and probably the world.
If you probably look down there, it will say somewhere in a barely visible font, only includes Disney original titles.
I don't think that's even true. They've just eliminated it from the platform.
They're deciding subjectively what is, in their opinion, the top 10. I mean,
Right.
it's not based on any actual numbers. But guys, I don't want to bury the headline here, and maybe I don't have it right, but to me, having watched this, I think that what the market is reacting to perhaps is the idea that there's going to be years of massive streaming success for Disney. And that seems to me hinged upon the idea that Disney is going to integrate ESPN into Disney Plus, and that you're going to have sports betting, therefore, embedded into Disney Plus. Now, the big question I have about this that I hope the market will begin to think about over the next few days is if Disney Plus now has a Hulu tile and an ESPN tile, but Hulu doesn't have a Disney Plus tile and ESPN doesn't have a Disney Plus tile, what is the point in all of these various streaming platforms? Why is it not just Disney Plus? Because at this point, you literally have Disney Plus, which features all of our other stuff, plus the other stuff which doesn't have Disney Plus. And that's just confusing to the market. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know how the end product is going to work on this, but yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jonas.
No, I think this $5 billion that they have a reserve on the books in order to pay for the rest of Hulu. I have to wonder, and I think this is where they're going, that they will eventually consolidate all of this into one service where they put the Disney Plus name on everything. And then just in the same way that you get cable in order to get access to all of this stuff on linear networks, I think I really feel like they're going to be just slicing that Disney Plus name and just pasting it on top of Hulu and trying to say it's profitable.
That's what Johnston was saying, I think, when he was talking about how he didn't see a reason to have these different products separated out. He had looked at that at Pepsi. Now he's looking at Disney. Guys, I think that our reporting from last year about Project Hulk, where we discussed that Disney was buying Hulu to kill Hulu, I think that's the plan. I think the plan is to make it just be a symbolic tile eventually inside Disney Plus, and Disney Plus is going to be where you get all of this stuff, for better or worse. I'm not trying to make a prognostication if this is wise or not. I'm just saying this is big news, what we've got here, in a otherwise not a whole lot of news, that Disney Plus is going to be the unified place where you get your sports betting, where you get your Bluey, where you get your Fox stuff. It's all going to be there. And then that begs the question, our reporting from last year was that they want to try and Amazon with this and start selling Disney products straight through Disney Plus. We don't have any of that. Nothing talked about yet. But if they're going for a singular app experience in the future, one has to wonder if that's not on the docket down the road.
It may be. The question is, how successful is it? Because the problem is, unlike Amazon, Amazon sells everything, and that's where people go to shop. People don't go to shop on Disney, so that's limited from that perspective. The other problem with this is why, and they always bring this up every call. Hugh Johnston talking about it today, or somebody asked about this. So you mentioned entertainment-based DTC, separate and apart from Hulu Live, right? Hulu Live is broken out because that's still a traditional linear broadcast delivery model. They're still contracted with all these other cable station providers because it's basically cable but via streaming, right? You can't kill Hulu altogether unless you're going to call it Disney Live or something like this, and maybe they try to brand it that way. I still think ESPN if there's one thing that's going to be kept separate, yes, it can still be merged in if you have a unified thing. Look, Disney now, if you sign in, they want you to sign in through a Disney One account or whatever they call it, a unified login that logs you into Hulu, to ESPN, to Disney Plus, blah, 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 all the other stuff, right? Even theme park tickets, you're going to buy stuff, you can go shopping at the Disney store, you have a Disney One account, right? Makes sense. Consolidate the redundancies here. But when you have ESPN, there's going to be a lot of people out there who are just going to want to pick up ESPN as a standalone. They don't give a crap about Bluey. They don't give a crap about Marvel. They don't give a crap about Star Wars. They don't give a crap about Disney Plus. They just want their live sports. And they probably don't even care about Hulu. So
they're going to be pricing it at a point where people are going to be very focused on ESPN as well. They're talking about a $40 to $50 minimum threshold on how much they're going to be charging for Disney Plus. So to use that to watch Bluey, forgive me. I mean, you can buy that stuff on iTunes and other platforms one time for less than the cost of a single month of ESPN. So they want super focused customers, because they're and Bob Chapek has revealed that they're expecting 30% of the previous viewership on ESPN, because they don't think people will care. They want the super hardcore, absolutely interested fans at a much higher price point. So definitely not worried about Bluey in that.
No, and you're going to be paying $40 to $50 a month just for ESPN, and you're still going to have ads.
Also, we want to call this out before we lose it, and that is that Disney said today that their defense against Epic Universe is that they are modeling, and that's what's going into these earnings, and this is what's making Wall Street so excited. So we just want to show you how the sausage is made. Disney is modeling how they think they'll do post Epic Universe based on historical models they've derived from other parks opening. The problem is Disney has never faced anything like Epic Universe. They have no historical models for this, but they're pretending that another Busch Gardens is opening down the road. That is not what is happening. It's a paradigm shift, and so investors should be wary of those modelings.
Yeah, I didn't care for that either, and I know there was a bunch of other stuff. Mike, I know you had a few things that you wanted to bring up here. I've got a few more things to go through, but I want to give you a chance here, my buddy. Yeah, well, there we go.
Right, so I got 6. Mike. I got 6 points. Here are my points. Point number 1. Well, I'm going to jump around a bit. So my first point is going to be, I want to translate what Johnstone said when he was asked about selling off business units and assets, the consolidation question and selling off units. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate what Johnstone, Mr. CFO guy, said. Mm-hmm. What he basically said was, I came in here and I looked around at all the different IPs that this company bought, and I concluded 2 things. One, that there is no more money, that we're not going to get a price that's worth it to sell for anything that we're holding on to that's worth more money than we are already bringing in or not making money on. So everything that we've got, whether it's Fox, Star Wars, Marvel, there ain't nothing that we're holding on to that we can get any kind of money that works to sale. And more importantly is that when you sell stuff, like let's say you have an estate sale at your house, right? Let's just say you're going to sell, you got a wood chipping, wood mill in your house, in the garage, and you're a hobby or you're a gunsmith, and you got all these tools. The cost of the pulling the IP out of the house of Mouse, the cost of pulling the Star Wars out and selling it, the Marvel or selling, is going to be so costly just to sell it, that combined with the price they get, it makes no sense that even to sell it, because some people speculated maybe they'll sell it and keep the licensing fees. They're like, you know what? This stuff is so integrated with what we do, and the price is so low that it's not even worth thinking about selling it. We're just going to leave it here to rot, and we're going to pretend like it's adding value. But in reality, we ain't selling crap, because none of the crap we bought has gone up in value and worth selling. That's my first point. Valliant, you agree?
Yes, totally. I was laughing when he was answering that question, when that question was asked, and then Hugh's answer, and I saw you going, oh, I want to talk about this later. I knew exactly where you were going, and that's it. And Mike's right. It's basically, when Hugh Johnson says he doesn't see any additive value by divesting some of these assets, meaning selling some of them off, and that could be ABC's linear broadcast, that could be cable stations, because that was specific to the question that was asked based on what Comcast is looking to do right now with dumping MSNBC, because that's such a trash fire. People like Joy Reid and all the other ones on there. Mika Brzezinski and all the other whack jobs that are over there on MSNBC. People tuned in to watch MSNBC election night for the clown show. They don't go there for news. They go to watch the clown show. And as soon as election night was over and all the ratings for CNN and MSNBC and all of them tanked right back into the toilet, that's why Comcast is like, yeah, I think we might be done with this. And that was the question posed here to Hugh Johnston at Disney. And Mike's right. They just don't have anything in the till that can either A, be unwound from Disney like Star Wars because it's so integrated into theme parks and everything else, and it isn't worth a pile of crap anymore because Disney broke it so badly.
Okay.
And
I've got one to throw in here. That was right after Bob Iger said that that Disney content wasn't the content that was getting them the wins. All of that money that they spent on Fox, he was justifying the purchase of Fox. But of course, in revealing any kind of truth, he reveals the lie that they've already told.
Right.
So right after they said frictional cost of selling assets, he pointed out that it was Fox content that was getting all of these wins. So not Disney.
Right. In my monologue before we began, real quick, I mentioned that. That was one of my highlighted remarks. He bragged about how well Disney did with the Emmys. Disney's FX received 36 awards, including 19 for Shogun and 11 for The Bear. And I was like, he's bragging on all the stuff he paid $70 billion to get from Fox. None of the stuff that's actually Disney core is doing a damn thing. Mike?
So my second comment was going to go was actually right along those lines. So that's a great bridge because I wanted to note that on this financial call, for all of none of the IP stuff discussed. So for all the time we as YouTubers and me as YouTuber adjacent talk about Marvel and Star Wars and blah 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 blah, wasn't even mentioned. Even none of these IPs. There's such a blip on the radar screen when it comes to what this company thinks is really important. If this company thought any of these IPs that we so much care about were important, were valuable, or were going to be invested in, then they would have talked about it. They didn't. Third point, I'm calling bull crap, or as Culture Casino likes to say, what is the word he uses? He doesn't say bullshit. What's the word?
Bologna sausage.
Bologna. I'm calling bologna sausage. Oh, did I just say bull? Okay. I'm calling bologna sausage on the Olympics versus France theme revenue because don't we have? So is this moron of a CEO telling me? Because I'm just a country accountant and tax fella from South Carolina in the low country now. And I don't understand these fancy fangled ways of these CEOs, but I want to understand something. Is this moron telling me that when the Olympics happen in Los Angeles down the road, that Disneyland is not going to be flooded with people from around the world that want to go to it?
Yes, that's what they're saying.
Telling me?
Yes.
There's no way. So I'm putting a flag in the ground right now that when we're still on this channel, what is that, 8, 9, 10 years from now, whenever that Olympics is going to happen? I don't even know when it's going to happen.
No, it's the next one in 2028, right? LA
All right,
is 28.
We'll be here. If I'm Mexican Iron Man, it's dropping a flag. Someone clip this and put it in the memory. I'm literally dropping this in the think vault. 4 years from now, I want to hear Bob tell me that Anaheim Disneyland was a train wreck and had lower the results because the Olympics said, get the heck out of here. Get the heck out of here. All right. Anyways, next thing, I got a huge compliment to Johnstone that I want to give on air because having listened to McCarthy for so many years on these things, even before Valliant Renegade had a channel, hey, I now know the difference. I talk about this a lot with my clients. Here we have a CFO with McCarthy that was a bit of a caretaker or absentee kind of an overlooking wine mom of the house. Johnstone is a steward. What we had with McCarthy is we had a caretaker. With Johnstone, we got a steward. This guy actually knows what he's doing. And I know for those of you that aren't finance people, but when Jonas said that this guy is a Ferrari as a CFO, he's on point. All right, my next point, I got two last points that I want to give. Point number 5, when you listen to these calls, I always listen to them from this lens. And one of my mentors taught me this. He's an elderly gentleman now. He taught me this when I was at ExxonMobil. And he was talking to me because we would listen to the earnings calls from other oil and gas companies and then companies in general. there's always three lenses that I listen to when these calls happen, which is what I call want, have to, and avoid. CEOs and boards of directors want to talk about certain stuff, and the stuff that they want to talk about is stuff that they think is going to keep the stock at a price that they like or make the stock go to a price that they'll really like. So you got to listen. Like lens number one is, what do they want to talk about? What do they choose to talk about? What do they want to talk about? The second lens is, what do they have to talk about? Like, what do they really have to talk about? They might not want to bring it up, but they know that if they don't get ahead of it and at least bring it up and filter it in their own Disney Iger way, then it could come back to bite them in the ass with either a bad question, a tough question, or a bad PR release. And then the third lens,
like what happened in India, the last question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the third one is, what do they avoid? That's the third lens. The third lens is, what do they avoid talking about? I didn't hear anything talking about like Valliant Renegade. I didn't hear a big announcement about Snow White. I didn't hear anything about, we're just, what is the word Bob uses? We're just thrilled that we're negotiating Kathleen Kennedy's extension. We're just tickled to death and thrilled with the upcoming release. We dropped an amazing new trailer for Black Lives Matter, Captain America, and we're just thrilled that it's going to be out next year. So, you got to look at those three lenses. What does Bob want to talk about? What does he have to talk about? And what does they avoid? And I think what we're seeing here is that when you look at these calls as a group, those of you that have been following Valliant Renegade, WDW Pro, and Jonas for many, many years like I have, those are the three little telescopic lenses that you got to look at. And what I found here is that I think we've got a company, what I see is that we've got a company that is just struggling to hold on to what it's got. It's cost cutting. It's they've got less cash this quarter than they've ever had in a prior earnings call in terms of cash on hand. I think they were at 8. In previous times, we've noticed they've been at either 12 or 22. They have been paying down the debt because they have to for the debt bond rating. But I think you've got a company here that is literally playing not to lose and not playing to win. And that wraps up my final point, which is my 6th point, which is that when I listen to Bob's tone, having done this before he brought in Bob Chapek, while Bob Chapek, after he came back and all that stuff, I thought that opening statement sounded like a short, sweet hostage video.
Well, he did an abbreviated version of the prepared remarks. The more lengthy version is what I was reading from that I highlighted an hour before we began the live show.
Iger that we've heard before, I'm thrilled, I'm overjoyed,
magical,
blah, blah, blah. Like, I think like this was the most like somebody in legal wrote, 2, 3, 4, 5 people said, okay, here's what we're going to put in the statement we'll release to the press, and hopefully they pick up, and here's what you're going to be allowed to say on air. That's it.
He sounds more tired. Yeah.
Guys,
he sounds exhausted, bro. Very lackluster, but I'm not surprised it was lackluster call, because this is a company that is not fighting for its customers. This is a company that is not fighting for the IPs that it owns. This is a company that is not fighting to actually profit off of the opportunities it has. This is a company that is not playing to win, but it is playing not to lose, and has no creative idea or intelligent ideas to actually what to do. They're really merely reacting to what's happening around them. And when you react, eventually you die. So I hopefully we'll get new leadership in this company, and this company will get back on track. If not, then as we approach our nation's 200th birthday in 2026, I'll be in shock if Disney isn't turning more and more into the Kmart, Walmart brand that it's already started turning into.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valliant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.